What up, Bulls Nation? Peck here. We've got a live CHGO Bulls podcast coming up for y'all right around the corner. Lots of fun, exciting action in the NBA playoffs. Last night, a couple of teams evening their first-round series at one game apiece. We'll talk about that. Plus, can the Bulls emulate the Detroit Pistons or any of the other young upstart teams in this year's NBA playoffs? What's the best way for the Bulls to build now and into the future? We'll talk about it next. I think you're wrong. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into CHGO Bulls podcast, coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls _ Peck. That's Giddey and Gottlieb.
Almost.
One of those names almost comes out first every time. No, Big Dave's not back yet. He'll be back tomorrow, post WrestleMania. Giddey and Gottlieb is perfectly cooperative as always. Will _ Gottlieb. Read his stuff, allchgo.com. Diehards, you can read his off-season outlook column that dropped earlier this week. And, of course, our queen of the control is the one and only Katie Duffy. What up, Katie?
Hello.
Also, Emma's here. Hi,
really?
Emma.
Emma is also here. You know what that means, guys? The Bulls are back.
Bulls are back. Bulls are back.
Back to
Kinda.
off-season mode. Yeah, or back to having a 1.7% chance to land the number 1 overall pick in the 25 draft. Because they are back to that. A familiar place.
Yeah, that's like once in 100 years.
Yeah. So. Oh, my goodness. CHGO Bulls brought to you, of course, by our friends at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Be sure to use promo code CHGO365 when you sign up to take advantage of that great offer of 150 in free bonus bets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Couple of quick reminders. Thursday and Friday, later this week, the NFL Draft is here. And that means CHGO Bears are having a party like we do every year. Tickets still available. Grab yours if you haven't grabbed it yet. Night 1 Thursday, night 2 on Friday. Bears got the 10th overall pick in this year's draft in round 1. And they got a few more exciting picks on deck in round 2 and 3. So get your ticket. Sign up to become a diehard because we're also running a diehard sale right now. And diehards get discounts, all kinds of fun stuff. Not only our merch, but our events. So, looking forward to that. Hope everybody shows out, hanging out with their fellow Bears fans, have a good time. Take advantage of that Die Hard sale. With that, let's dive into our first topic for the day, and it is What's Brewing, brought to you by our friends at Sam Adams American Light. Delicious. Light beer just got better, y'all. Grab yourself some. I love them. Dave loves them. We are currently out on our office fridge, and I am sad about it. But they are available at several select Chicago retailers. So grab yourself some Sam Adams American Lights the next time you head to the store and are looking to fill that beer fridge of yours. If you don't have a beer fridge, here's a tip. Get a beer fridge. You're not a beer drinker, so I'm guessing you don't have a beer fridge.
No beer fridge, but I like our beer bucket.
Beer bucket's great. But it's like, you need to ice it.
You got to ice them.
You got to ice it. Same thing with a cooler. A beer fridge is just a refrigerator that stays where it is and keeps your beers cold.
But
Katie,
it's
I'm guessing you
from your
also are
fridge.
not a beer fridge person.
No, because I just don't have space for a second fridge.
I bet you do.
I really don't. Maybe I just don't want to.
That's what it is.
Space for it.
You choose to not believe you have space for a beer fridge.
Yeah, I think I'd rather use space for something else.
Like?
A television?
My
Plants?
beer fridge is underneath and to the right of my... Okay, it's underneath one of my 2 TVs and to the right of my other TV.
Okay, see, you've already...
We're living
different tax brackets already,
luxurious
clearly.
life with people cleaning
his
house.
Cleaning service, his 3 TVs.
2 fridges and 3 TVs and
I just choose wisely what I spend my money on.
I feel like you have like a lazy boy or like a reclining chair that has a fridge right next to it.
No, it's not right next to my recliner.
But it's not like a fridge where you have to like lean over and open the door. You can just like slide the top and pick one out.
So that is the next height of luxury that I have not graduated to yet. I have contemplated it before. Or, they now make like refrigerated coffee tables that have like, beer coolers built into the coffee table. That is a flex. When I see somebody have one of those, I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just, I do have a recliner.
But you have to
I have to get out of it to reach the beer fridge door.
But maybe that's just like your exercise for that day.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just kitty corner on the other side of my living room, which is closer and faster than walking to my kitchen.
Your legs a little bit in one day.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I approve.
Okay, so yeah, grab yourself some Sam Adams American Life, throw it in your beer fridge or your regular fridge. What's brewing? The NBA playoffs are brewing, Goat, and we saw a couple of riveting game twos last night, featuring.
It was a great night of basketball.
It really was. Two road teams getting that series split through the first
Warriors.
2 games.
Road dogs.
We let's save Pistons Knicks because we're gonna kind of piggyback and talk some Pistons in our next segment. So starting with Clippers Nuggets, I think a lot of people thought this could be the most entertaining and most competitive series, toughest one to predict coming into all these round 1 series. And we saw a tight Nuggets win in game 1, featuring overtime tight. And then, I mean, you could even make the argument that last night's game was even closer in some ways and more tightly contested. It was like just a 2-possession game or less, basically the entire night, back and forth, back and forth. Neither team led by more than 8 points at any point in the game. Came down to the last few possessions. This time it's the Clippers that came out on top. What did you make of that, 2 tightly contested games through 2 with each team walking away with 1 win? Do you feel like we've answered anything about this Clippers-Nuggets series yet?
I mean, it's just going to be a fantastic series. I guess the biggest point is, like we always talk about, you need a top 10 player to win a championship. And I think this whole season, the Clippers were this frisky, good defensive team who was maybe kind of playing above their head. They were getting contributions from old friends Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr., and they're a fun team. And Ivica Zubac is playing really well. And
named a finalist for most improved player this year.
And he should have been on the defensive player of the year list as well. Harden is having kind of a throwback year, but like, how far can they really go? They got rid of Paul George. Kawhi's always hurt. And then the playoffs come around and Kawhi Leonard looks like the best version that we've seen of Kawhi Leonard. 39 points on 19 shots.
15 of 19 last night.
Absolutely automatic from
Cooked.
mid-range, got whatever he wanted. And it's just like, yeah, they could absolutely win it all this year. Like, they are that good when he is playing this well. I'm not going to like go and bet a bunch of money on them because you just never know about his health. And I do feel like as fun and good as they were defensively all year, they don't have that kind of ceiling if he is not playing healthy. But they looked like a team that was ready to actually make a deep run. And Kawhi's not going to score 39 points a game, but like, that was a really impressive win for them.
It was, and it was crazy, to me. And like, I know that Kawhi put up some numbers when he came back and was playing, down the stretch this season, but not something that I was paying attention to on a nightly basis. But like, I watched that game from start to finish last night, and I was reminded, like, oh man, healthy Kawhi, top 10 player. Like, you can absolutely still make that argument. He's no spring chicken, but it doesn't matter the way he plays and the way that he is efficient and the spots on the floor where he is so lethal. Some of those, pull up mid-range shots he was making down the stretch of that game. He also hit that crazy double clutch shot from behind the arc to end the third quarter. Just like big shot after big shot, and on spots on the floor that most of the NBA has just completely left in the past and forgotten about. And Kawhi's still like, no, these are my spots. I'm going to get to my spots and I'm going to score. And last night's game was just a great reminder of like, yo, dude, healthy Kawhi, who's locked into his game, is a horrifying player to try to have to guard.
Especially when he's not like responsible for being the defensive player of the year too.
Right.
I mentioned Zubac and Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is unbelievably good at defense. Like, watching him close out, stay down, still forcing a guy to his weak hand every single time. The help, the anticipation, getting in passing lanes. Like, he is incredible defensively. Derek Jones is very good. They've just got like all these weapons all over the place. And yeah, I mean, you're not going to win a championship unless you are that kind of a team that's like a top 10 defense and has like one of the top 10 offensive players in the league when they are playing at their best. And like, that's the formula that the Clippers have right now. It's really cool to see them playing because they're kind of this like old team that's got like these washed up, injury prone former superstars in Harden and Kawhi. But then Zubac is playing at a defensive player of the year level, and you're getting all these contributions from like Norman Powell. It's just a fun team. And I think they do have the formula down where it's like, yeah, I could actually see this team if they continue on like this healthy, that they could win it all.
Our guy Jim in the comments saying the Bulls should look to acquire a guy like Chris Dunn. Matthew saying Chris Dunn, my GOAT. Obviously a former not draft pick by the Bulls, but one of those pieces in the Jimmy Butler trade that sent him to Minnesota. Chris Dunn returned in that trade. We know that the Bulls were high on Chris Dunn and almost drafted him, almost traded up to draft him coming out of that draft class. And like I was a believer in Chris Dunn back in the day. Obviously, you saw what he could do defensively. It was just a question of like, can he also be your team starting point guard on the offensive end? And I think Bulls fans slowly learned that at the time, at that stage of Chris Dunn's career, that answer was very much no.
And it's like, this is the whole thing about like the way the Bulls have gone about team building, not just in this iteration, but before. It's like you can collect a bunch of good players and they can help raise your floor, or they can be like exciting young players. Like Chris Dunn is a great example. He obviously didn't like blossom into the player that the Bulls wanted him to become, but like he was a good piece.
Yeah.
And
he's the Caruso of the Clippers, essentially.
Yeah. And when you have a bunch of good pieces, that sets you up to have a high floor, but you really need that superstar to be a legit player. And the way Harden is playing right now, obviously he didn't have as an efficient game last night, but was really good in game one. They have that formula down. And I think we're going to talk about how like the Detroit Pistons compare to the Bulls in terms of their rebuild and team building. And I feel like the Clippers are another good example of like, you can get a bunch of these good players, but unless they slot into the spot where they're really supposed to be in the pecking order, because you have that star, it's not going to really amount to what you want it to amount to.
Right. And, you know, the Clippers are just such a talented defensive team when they are locked in on that end. And, you know, your point about Kawhi not needing to be the defensive guy on top of giving you 40
he's your third
points.
Best defender in their starting lineup. Like, that's insane.
Right. It's
that
crazy.
Is insane.
And their length and tenacity on defense clearly bothered the Nuggets at times. I mean, yeah, Joker had himself a 26-point triple-double. He also had 7 turnovers. You rarely see a turnover figure that high from Joker because his passes are so predetermined and on point, sometimes while not even looking where he's passing the ball. Like that is his superstar gift. But they really bothered Joker at times last night with that overwhelming defense. And things also, you know, got a little chippy. Excited to see if this series gets even more contentious. We saw that little mini scuffle between Jamal Murray and Norman Powell break out late in that game while teams were fighting for every possession. That playoff intensity that you just love to see. And I think these teams through 2 games already really don't like each other. Okay, so before we get to our first break, just to head over to Pistons-Knicks, another road team getting that monkey off their back, getting the split to come back to play home games in 3 and 4. And shout out to the Pistons. I was not aware of this until that game 1 final. That was their first playoff win since they were in the conference finals in 2008. That is crazy. They had a 15-game postseason losing streak coming into that game last night.
That's what happens when you try to just like be in the middle for 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Some would say, well, that's why they were taking that whole time. No,
they were just bad.
Y'all remember Blake Griffin, Detroit Piston?
That was an era that happened. But yeah, they just tried to keep it alive with like Drummond and Blake Griffin. And yeah, that's the recipe for being stuck in the middle and having one of those streaks. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited by that Pistons team and what they can do. And yeah, we'll talk more about him after the break.
We shall. Cade Cunningham, 33 points on 11 of 21. Very strong bounce back game from him. 10 of 12 at the free throw line, dozen boards. And credit to the Pistons because they coughed up that lead in game 1. And the Knicks went on a 21-0 run in the fourth quarter to take control of that game and take the game 1 win. It looked like that might happen again last night. Pistons let the Knicks come back and tie it 94 all. But then they held them off. Made the key plays they needed to make down the stretch. Credit to the young team for doing that on the road. All right, let's knock out a couple ads. When we come back, we will talk a little bit more about that and just what this young Pistons team is building and if the Bulls should be trying to build something similar here in Chicago. Hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. Cast your vote about the dinosaurs. Katie needs to know. And if you do want to take the spin at the end of today's show, make sure that those likes are coming in. Triple digits required.
Hit the like button.
Today's show brought to you by Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Sunnyside is here to be your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer, and that's right, summer is coming. It's a balmy 60-something degrees. Making my way to the office today. Berks are out. Shorts are on. Summer's here, y'all. It's practically here. That means you need to be heading to Sunnyside to get everything you need to elevate your summer. They are Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city like Wrigleyville and River North. Also, to the far-reaching suburbs, even as far south as Champaign, as far north as South Beloit, and more. If you're just starting out, Sunnyside has their great staff to give you expert guidance and brands they know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's. Shout out to those Good News gummies. They are my fave. Even if you're a pro, they've got you covered with over 100 different strains to choose from on their menu. Talk about variety of options, plus new ones added daily, and expertly curated wellness advisor staff picks collection. Check them out because they know the very best of the best. Visit Sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off. That's right, 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Just use promo code HICHGO when you check out to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 and older and Illinois Med card holders.
We just mentioned the Clippers stealing home court advantage. They're going back to their home court with the advantage.
That's
Same
right.
thing
Emma's
with the
stoked.
Knicks and the Pistons going back to Detroit,
Home court, man.
tied 1-1. And just like your favorite team, those teams need a home court advantage. And Empire Today can help them get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to one of the big box stores. You wander the aisles aimlessly. You're somehow in there hauling these materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself. Biff comes up and he's asking you if you need help, and you say yes, and he's got nothing for you. He doesn't know how to help you. Those big box flooring stores have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring, like Biff, has been doing sinks or stocking light bulbs. They don't know how to help. That's why Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor. They live and breathe flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. It is a whole different ballgame. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to you. They help you pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space, and they can help you see how it looks in your space with your furniture in your house. You can get precise measurements taken and have all your questions answered, so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners can receive $350 off when using promo code CHGO. That is right, $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions apply, terms apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details.
Rolling along CHGO Bulls podcast on a Tuesday. Beautiful Tuesday here in Chicago. Hit that like button if you want a tank spin. Okay, so.
Oh, wait, sorry, I need to follow up on that.
Please do.
I really would love to not have to go a day between today and May 12th without a lottery spin.
Goat really wants his lottery spins, y'all.
That's all we have going
on
right
the
now.
daily.
Katie has informed us.
We really didn't do a lot down the stretch because the Bulls kept winning games.
Yeah. We didn't get a lot of. I thought this was going to be a
tis the
fixture
season now
of our post-game shows.
Yeah, you'd think.
Alas, it was not. So, in order to make up for that, we need to do more tank spins, and that means we need more likes. Katie said we need 100 per show in order to get there. Please help me out because I cannot go a day without a tank spin.
Goat needs them.
I told Goat to have 99 friends hit the stream, but I don't think he has 99 quite.
Definitely not, but I have all of you, and I would love
he
for
has
you
99 internet friends for sure.
So far, he only has 34, so we got a lot of work to do.
So he's taking credit for all 34 of those likes. None of those are you or me, Katie.
I don't know.
We only have 100 people
34
watching.
like
Like, what if the
dinosaurs.
rate? I mean, that would be an insane ratio if we were to get 100 out of
Yeah,
100.
Well,
people
let me let
watching.
you on a little secret. The more people like, the more people watch. That's how the algorithm
You heard the
works.
woman. Hit the like.
Likes. I'm sure Emma gave us a like already. Right, Emma? Because we just talked about the Clippers. Winning big. Boom. Yes, as did the Detroit Pistons. Big win at the Garden last night. A tough place to play playoff games and win them on the road. The Stars are out. Obviously, the Knicks, the favorites in that series. And look, I saw a lot of talk about Brunson, and we can get back to the Pistons real quick, but took 27 shots, 11 free throws, 37 points. His usage percentage is just like he is the driver of everything that Knicks team is doing.
I mean, in a lot of ways, Tibbs has evolved. In some ways, he hasn't. And Brunson just getting every single possession drawn up for him.
Yeah.
Or there just not being any offense and they're just letting him cook is so 2011 Chicago Bulls.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, that team is awesome. They have incredible defenders. OG Anunoby on Cade. You're able to switch with Mikal Bridges or Josh Hart. They're just loaded on defense. And yeah, when you have Brunson scoring the way that he does, Cat didn't even play that well, but he still provides like an incredible dynamic scoring threat as the 5, spacing the floor and just able to punish mismatches. They have a great team and a great formula, but this Knicks team is fun. They are physical. They're exciting. They're young. And they have, I think, a great blend of really productive veteran role players who like don't do too much, but like can help out in the ways that they need to.
Right.
Last night, Dennis Schroeder hit a big 3 off the dribble.
Huge.
To basically give the Pistons a 3-point lead after the Knicks tied it up. You have Malik Beasley. You have Tobias Harris, who's been huge. They just have a great mix.
Yeah.
That I'm just, it's really fun to watch. And they also bring back some Bad Boys vibes with their physicality. That's just, they're a fun team.
It is. It is a fun team to watch. And, you know, you're talking about those pieces. Let's dive into it because I think it's fair to ask, like, which path is the best path for the Bulls, given this is their starting point. The roster is the roster. Most of it will be returning next year unless AK decides to make a bunch of trades. And where can they go to get better? Just as we might be wondering, like, what is the ceiling of this, you know, fun, scrappy Pistons team that has some young talent, some veteran talent, maybe won't get past the Knicks in this first round series, but
I think they might.
know, like they might, given the results through 2 games, and that
they
like
fell apart in game 1. They were winning by 10.
Yeah.
And then like it was a clear, this team is just like overwhelmed by experience versus inexperience. And then game 2, you saw it start to unravel a little bit and they withstood and took home court advantage. Like that is huge for them. And I think that the Knicks team is just always at risk of running out of gas.
Yes.
And I think especially against a physical team like the Pistons, that is a real possibility.
So, you know, you talked about their combination, the Pistons, of young talent and veteran role player pieces. I went and looked at their regular season win share rankings this season as they made their 30-win jump from last year's 14-win team. And it is the names that you would expect. Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham, Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Isaiah Stewart, and Ausar Thompson. Those are your top 6 win share guys for the Pistons this season. That is a combination of homegrown talent and selective free agent / trade veteran sign. I think Beasley signed like a 1 or 2 year deal. Tobias Harris, 2-year, $50 million, I believe. Like veteran pieces on modest or just like, you know, sub max level veteran contracts, and guys that they drafted or in a couple like special cases didn't draft technically, but acquired on later on draft night or like a couple days after. Because Isaiah Stewart, they got
Stu, yeah.
like a few days after the draft. One of them, was it Duren, who was acquired later that draft
I believe
night?
he actually was in a trade with the Knicks. I
Yeah.
think
He was traded twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he first got sent from the Hornets to the Knicks, I believe, and then the Knicks to the Pistons. So, but essentially, for all intents and purposes, this is homegrown talent, and then, you know, fitting in the right veteran puzzle pieces around it. And at the very core of all of it is the guy you took number 1 overall, who just in his 4th NBA season got his first All-Star nod and has seen incremental growth as a leading, you know, focal point of the team and your go-to 1A scoring option on a nightly basis to the tune of this season, 26, 27 points a game.
Yeah, and they have Jaden Ivey, who obviously broke his leg earlier on in the season.
Right.
And hasn't been playing, although it sounds like a comeback is not necessarily out of the cards. I think he probably won't play, but like he should be ready for next year.
It was a pretty serious broken leg injury,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
And then
But was
Ron
playing
Holland.
really well before that.
And Ron Holland, who we all really liked in the draft, fell to 5th overall for the Pistons. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between like being bad without purpose and being bad on purpose. And I think the Pistons kind of fell into both categories at certain points over the last 5 or 6 years. Obviously, they got lucky getting up to number 1 with Cade, but then they've drafted really well. I'm a huge fan of the Thompson twins. Ausar is one of the best defensive players in the league. He fouled out in like 20 minutes though last night. Just a little bit aggressive, but they've got this big physical draft ethos where they bring in Ron Holland and Ausar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren, these guys that are just physical athletes who defend. And now you bring in this mix of veteran players like Malik Beasley, who had the most 3-pointers ever for the Detroit Pistons franchise. Tobias Harris, another big wing with size who can score and create his own shot. Got Dennis Schroeder in a deal with the Golden State Warriors after he was flipped from the Brooklyn Nets. And then, you mentioned him. Cade Cunningham is kind of the engine that makes the whole thing run. So it's a very cool mix where you have the guy, you have some high-level role players, you have some high-level vets, and then you still have this crop of young players that can continue to grow. And as they do, you can see different ways where they would turn over the roster and bring in different vets as time goes on. But that's kind of the core that you're moving forward with. So really interesting team. And I think they're an interesting contrast to what the Bulls have been doing, who obviously the Bulls have some high level draft prospects, right? Coby was 7th overall pick. Giddey was 6th. Matas was 11th. So it's not like they can't put together this sort of thing, but I think they're still missing their equivalent of Cade Cunningham.
I would agree. Some Bulls fans think that one of those 3 guys is that guy or could be that guy, and it's fair to hold that opinion. But you see the jumps that Cade has made, and you're like, okay, we haven't seen Coby or Giddey make any such jump. Coby has been in the league longer than Cade Cunningham. Josh Giddey, this was just year
I think
4.
he's kind of the closest thing though, right? They were in the same draft.
Right.
Giddey's a big guard who can facilitate and has shot the ball better. So I think that's kind of their closest thing, unless they obviously move up in the draft. But Cade was an incredible scorer this year, and I think that's where Giddey still needs to improve.
Right, and some might say, hey, Giddey put up all-star caliber numbers post all-star break. Okay, you can make that argument. I could listen to that argument post all-star break. It's not earning an all-star nod because you played like that for the first 50 games of the season, and then Cade Cunningham continuing to do it all season long.
Cade had a really rough first couple of years. He did not look this good on his rookie contract. And then he signed the max deal, and everybody's like, whoa, hold on a second here.
Yeah.
Is he really worth this? And obviously he is. He was an all-star this year, and he's been incredible. So, but I think also you're seeing him in this playoff series be obviously the guy who wants the ball and who wants to run the offense, but has this, Schroeder in particular, I think, is a really good resource for him to have around, where he's got the experience. He can create his own shot. He can do a little bit off the ball, but he can also take over on the ball and just provide some relief in a playoff series where obviously Jaden Ivey is going to be that player longer term.
Right.
But that experience, I think, is really helpful for Cade when he gets a little bit overwhelmed by OG.
And yes, to your point, Cade had a slow start in some aspects. He was not an efficient shooter his first 2 years in the league. Each of his first 2 seasons, he averaged 41.5 from the field and shot woefully from behind the three-point line. He's gotten that up to this season, shot just shy of 47% from the field and a very respectable 35.5% on 6 3-point attempts per game. But even in that second season of his, when he was not being a very efficient shooter, he still averaged 26 and 6. That was only, that was the year he got hurt. That was only a 12-game sample size. But then you go to year 3, 22.5 points per game in 62 games played, 7.5 assists on top of that, and the shooting numbers started to grow. So some of these young players, Coby was talking about it in an interview towards the end of the Bulls regular season. Some guys take different strides at different times in different years of their career. It's not impossible that some of the Bulls guys can make strides the way that Cade Cunningham did in his 4th season when he became a first-time All-Star. It's just about which, if any, of these current Bulls guys could be that guy, or if they still don't have him, and then how to go about building if that's the case. We got to knock out a couple other ads. When we come back, we will continue this conversation. I want to take a look at the Pistons books because you also have to factor that part of this conversation. Who gets paid what when you're trying to build these teams that are a combination of young talent and veteran talent? Hit the like button this time. We want that tanked it. Spin Goat needs it. We need likes. Need the likes. What else do I need? As much as I need likes, I need a Sam Adams American Light. And there aren't any in our office fridge right now, and that makes me sad. But it's okay, because I'm sure we'll get some soon. Light beer just got better. Introducing Sam Adams American Light. Clean, crisp, and super easy to drink. There's no gimmicks. There's no fluff. As Dave would say, no woozies or wazzies. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American-sourced ingredients from local independent farmers. It's light beer that's made right. Light beer should never feel like a compromise if you're talking about calories, if you're talking about taste. Sam Adams doesn't make you compromise on any of it. It's an American classic so smooth you'll want to crack open another one, and then another one, and then one more after that. It's always Sam season with Sam Adams American Light. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21 and older, and please do, of course, drink responsibly.
Katie, can you ask Matt what time is it?
Hey, Matt, what time is it?
I believe it is Game Time Hoot.
Game Time Hoot. Game Time makes it easier than ever to get tickets faster, even for hard-to-get playoff games. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off. Bulls, not in the playoffs. Sad. Other teams in the Central Division, not far away from Chicago. Cavs, Pacers, Pistons, Bucks, all in the playoffs. Want to take a little road trip on the weekend? You might be able to get yourself some good tickets with the killer last-minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. Last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% on buying tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've got zone deals where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature to show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, and you can get seat views, get panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly how much legroom you're getting. The Big Dave special. And they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase.
Terms apply. Terms apply.
I'm only going to do it one time. Create an account, redeem the code CHGO, get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Matt, can you ask me what time it is?
Go, what time is it?
Game Time. Hoot.
That was solid.
Thanks.
That was,
I've got big shoes to fill.
big shoes to fill. But I enjoyed that. Speaking of big shoes to fill, you did mention the contract that Cade Cunningham just signed
A big
before this
old
season.
5-year, $224 million.
Those are big contract shoes to fill. I wanted to take a look at the Pistons cap sheet because we're talking about like how you build a winner, and it's with like finding the right talent, but then also making sure that everybody who needs to get paid can get paid while doing so and while assembling it. Because the Pistons now have this young talent accumulated and have spot veteran pieces that are getting paid modest figures. Tobias Harris on the high end, Malik Beasley and a few others on more like, not vet minimum, but modest levels of veteran contract money. But then you get to a point where like, okay, it's, fill in the blank. It's now X player who we drafted high is due for a payday or a rookie contract extension. And then this one and then that one. Cade got his. Katie, do you have that Pistons spot track we could take a look at that I was looking at earlier today? So obviously, you mentioned it. It is 5 years, $224 million.
Which, by the way, is the same max deal that Giddey could sign this summer if he was offered it.
Correct. Which is an average annual salary of nearly $49 million over 5 years, starting at 38, working up all the way up to $51 million in
That's the
Cade's final year.
25% max.
Correct. I do not think even Bulls fans who are worried about Giddey's payday that's coming around the corner are worried about these kinds of figures. I don't think anyone thinks Giddey is going to be making a Cade Cunningham level contract. It's still about, okay, what do you sign Giddey to? If Giddey is your best player or one of your two best players, and then if Coby White is your other best player and he is due a payday, the following summer because he's not going to sign a 140%. Extension on his current deal, because that would be an underpay, then numbers start to add up. So when you look at what like the Pistons pay sheet right now, Tobias Harris, the wily vet, is making like 25 mil, 26 mil first year, second year on a 2-year deal. And there's not a whole lot of other bad looking money, ugly looking money on this cap sheet. It's a pretty clean cap sheet. It's now just like Cade Cunningham, boom, big payday, max payday. And then you start talking about now we got to pay Ivey. Now we got to pay Duren. Now we got to pay Stewart, and and then that's when books start to get complicated.
And that's also like the Bulls are even behind schedule for that, because if you're considering Coby one of the core pieces, he's going to be up for a bigger contract. I mean, I guess it'll be the same time as Ivey, but like you're basically already putting those guys in place as your core pieces. And then it's about bringing in the veterans on like kind of these shorter term, but a little bit bloated contracts, like the one you mentioned for Tobias. That's, I think, the formula though, is like you draft young players, you wait to see if any of them can turn into your star. Once they do, you pay them, and hopefully you still have a couple of younger guys that are coming up behind them that have room to grow. You got to pay Jalen Duren. You got to pay Jaden Ivey. Ausar Thompson is going to get paid here in a couple of years. Holland's a rookie, but he's still got some time. But in the meantime, you're able to bring in guys like Schroeder and Malik Beasley on a good deal. And I think that's really the key, is like, can you find these veterans that are like undervalued with their team that can come in and provide more value than you paid for them? I think Malik Beasley is a perfect example of that. I even think like Kevin Huerter is a good example of that. Like he was way better than, he was way worse than what the contract was that he signed when he got to the Kings. But I think he's providing that much value or more with the Bulls. Collins, probably the same deal. Like, can you start to continue to bring in some of those guys? And then if those other guys that you have can take the leap, now you're maybe in a more similar position, but it really does depend on how good are the young building blocks. And then I think it's easier to find the veteran role players who can come in and supplement them. It's harder to get the guy who can be the franchise player for the next 10, 15 years.
Right, exactly. Because if all of these homegrown talents that the Pistons are looking at, or if you're talking about the Bulls situation comparatively, need those paydays, do they warrant the paydays because you're building towards something collectively? Because this Pistons team, yes, they were the 6th seed this season, but there is, most would believe, room for this team to get even better than they are now, and they might upset a very good Knicks team in the first round. That is a team that some might say is worth paying top dollar to keep together. And that's the decision that a lot of, contending teams and their ownership groups have to make that are difficult, is how long do we keep this championship contending team together, assuming that we are at least in that first apron of the luxury tax, if not the second. It doesn't always work out that way. Like the Suns were a second apron team and crashed and burned this season. But generally speaking, especially if you're a Bulls fan, Michael Reinsdorf has said, whether or not you believe him, if we have a championship caliber roster, we'll go into the luxury tax to keep that roster together, or to assemble that roster. For the Pistons, it's like they were an over the cap but under the tax team this year. They had plenty of space before that first apron. When you start talking about this player needs a payday, this player needs a payday, then you're talking about, is this a good enough team to pay the luxury tax to keep together? Whether it's the Pistons, or if the Bulls get there with this collection of players, and then the person making that final decision, if Giddey needs to get paid, Coby needs to get paid, they try and add a big name free agent in 2026 to that. Is this a championship caliber roster? Therefore, is it a roster we'll pay the luxury tax for?
I mean, yeah, we just don't know the answer to that yet. And that's why, like, I think a lot of people were frustrated with Arturas's comments after the season about like asking for patience. I think they kind of need more time to figure out how good can Coby and Giddey be, and if they can turn into players that take yet another step forward. If they can, now maybe you're on that trajectory, and then you can start to make some of those decisions. But if not, then okay, maybe it's time to like really tear it down and trade those guys for whatever you can get. And hopefully the production that they're putting up allows you to get a lot of good value, and you can move forward with Matas becoming more of that focal piece, and whatever other young players you bring in. But you don't know until you know. And I think there's some people that feel more confident in that. I think that Giddey and Coby have progressed enough to where it is probably, especially with the Bulls cap sheet and longer term salary structure being what it is, that they deserve a chance to see what they can do next year for a full season. I think like the criticism of, it was just the last 30 games against a bunch of teams that weren't trying. Sure. But then let's see it. Let's give it a chance to see what they can do during the first part of the season, where teams are playing a little bit better, and if they can continue to take a step forward, because I don't think just playing the way that they played is good enough. Otherwise, they would have made the playoffs, right? So they need to continue to get even better than they are and than they have gotten, and not to take away from the improvements that they made. They absolutely got better, but there needs to be another step forward Same for Matas. He's a rookie. I think he's got plenty of time. And then it's about, okay, if we feel comfortable with our core, now we can start to make some of those decisions. But we just don't know if we can do that yet because we don't know how real these jumps from Giddey and Coby were.
Yeah, and it's those jumps and whether they are sustained and then built upon again. Because, the Pistons are a fascinating example just because they are a team that's on the rise that the Bulls see a lot of as a division opponent. And they did cash in big on a number 1 overall pick and then draft well around him and then add in spot veteran signings and free agency. And so far, the results have been promising. But even some of the other just elite teams in the East, you can look at and say, okay, how did they build to where they are now? And additional teams within the Bulls' own division. Look at Cleveland. They have homegrown talent that is star level, and then they also have guys that they acquired in trades that are star level. They drafted Darius Garland. They drafted Evan Mobley and hit on both. They also acquired Donovan Mitchell in a trade, acquired Jarrett Allen in a trade. Their core 4 are half and half as far as how did we find this talent and how are we building with it.
And now they become big spenders when they go after a Max Strus and a DeAndre Hunter.
But part of it is always we hit on this guy in the draft, and he is a big piece, if not the biggest piece, of why our team is winning.
Yeah, and the Jarrett Allen trade was kind of crazy. That was actually in the James Harden to Brooklyn Nets trade from Houston, where he was a throw-in.
Right.
And the Cavs just somehow got themselves into that and got their center of the future. But yeah, I mean, you also need to hit on not only I wouldn't say Isaac Okoro is a great number 5 overall pick. They've kind of been able to work around that because of Mobley and his ability to be the primary 4. But Ty Jerome's a great example. He was off the scrap heap from the Warriors. He was hurt. He wasn't playing. And now he's a huge piece of what they were doing. If he qualified for the minutes, he would have had a real case to be made for most improved and for 6th man of the year. And you need to hit on those kind of guys. So it's not just about the franchise player, but everything falls into place once you have that guy. And otherwise you're just kind of raising your floor, but to what end?
Right.
And I think that's kind of where the Bulls find themselves. Now, again, I'm not saying that Giddey and Coby cannot improve. I'm not saying Matas doesn't have star potential. I'm not saying they don't get super lucky in the lottery or that even if they do draft 12, that they can't find somebody there. Maybe all that happens, but it's just, you have to hit on all these things. It can't just be about one of them. And I think that's really the challenge here, is that I actually think Arturas has done a really good job of building out the depth on this team. We saw Trey Jones and Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins come in and play really well. That's 3 guys that they didn't have before. You've obviously got your core, Vooch. You've got a lot of good players here, but they just need the one guy that can help slot everybody else into place. And I don't know how you get that from the path that they're on. And you saw even the Cavs, they had to take a real step back where they were drafting number 6 and number 2. And then, or was it 3? I can't remember. They got their guys and now you move forward. And then you strike opportunistically when a Donovan Mitchell becomes available. And he's a guy that's worth giving up the farm for. And so I think the Bulls have different options where it's okay, you've got Giddey, you've got Coby, you got Matas, maybe some version of Donovan Mitchell. I don't think he's becoming available, but maybe that type of player comes up and you can go trade for him at the 3 or at the 5, and now you're cooking. But that's just, and you've got to wait for that. And I think that's another reason why I feel comfortable going into next season pretty much as they finished last season, which is you don't want to rush into a trade for a guy like Sabonis and do the Vooch 2.0 where you give up a ton of assets for a guy that's obviously a very good player, but that's not taking you over the top. I think that's what you really need to be careful about.
Yeah. Doc Brown in the comments, or Kevin in the comments saying Doc Brown needs to take us all back to the Jimmy trade and just not do that. Unfortunately, I don't think time travel is an option for the Bulls as far as rectifying where they are and where they're going. It is about how to best build from where they are, whether or not we agree with how they got here and why they are here now, and whether where they are now is good enough for the amount of work that has theoretically been done by this front office and coaching staff to try to develop this young team, especially in the wake of trading away some of their veteran pieces. But it's about where they go from here and how they get that guy and those guys. We got to knock out a couple other quick ads. When we come back, we'll put a bow on this conversation by looking at a few other examples and talk about what the Bulls should be doing in this approach this offseason and beyond. Hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. We are not even close to enough likes for a Tankathon spin. Sorry, Goat.
Damn it.
Hit the like button, y'all. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. And you don't even need to hit that $5 lineup to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed either way. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 different players in the game that you are excited to watch. NBA playoffs, a great option for Prize Picks. For a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. So what are you waiting for? Download that Prize Picks app today. Don't forget to use that promo code CHGO when you sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup, win or lose. Prize Picks, run your game.
With all the money that you win at Prize Picks, you can start saving to celebrate during Jeep Celebration event at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram.
Right!
Now is your chance to score on a great deal on your next vehicle. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, get up to $12,000 off MSRP on select new 2024 Jeep Wrangler models with a dealer discount, or lease the new 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport 4xe for only $129 a month. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. And with a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray CDJR is here to help during each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, since they prioritize affordability, you know you won't overpay for the vehicle you need. And with Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons, no hidden fees, ever. The price you see is the price you pay. It is that simple. So go to check out our friends, our partners at one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. Find the right vehicle for you and then drive home happy. The team at Ray CDJR is the only one we recommend. Don't miss out on the Jeep Celebration event going on all month long for huge savings on your next Jeep Wrangler. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. 63!
Shout out, Ray. Also, shout out Sean in the comments. Appreciate you. Okay, so we're talking about how the Bulls need to build from where they are. Kevin, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. Andrew saying the Bulls were stuck this year. Had to win enough to rebuild Zach's trade value, or he'd still be here. Vooch slumped. No deal. Assuming no Vooch trade is what you meant. Played out the season like he wants to get out in the summer. Well, you know, we talked about how Vooch did have a strong bounce back, actually, over the last stretch of games after that little mini slump he did have. And credit to Vooch. I mean, numbers across the board this season. Totally bounced back his three-point efficiency. He was a workhorse and a solid veteran glue guy all season long. But, you know, he is entering the final year of his deal next season. Is he a piece that they want to keep around? They decided that Lonzo Ball was a veteran piece that they wanted to keep around. They signed him to a 2-year deal instead of trading him. But it's like, it's still all about that guy. Whether Coby or Josh or Matas could be that guy. And I think, and shout out to Mo, our pal, great member of Bulls Nation in Bulls Twitter Spaces, also does great work covering the team. He was talking about this on Twitter the other day, like we were talking about it on Second City Sports the other day too, like this really toxic conversation that's developed between like pro tankers and anti-tankers among Bulls fans. And it's like, it's not necessarily about that. Like, I think we should lose and lose on purpose and lose a lot because that's how we build back up. And those who disagree with that notion, it's like Mo was saying, it's just about how do you get the player that you build your team around or the 2 players you build your team around, because the Bulls haven't found their way to that player. You could say in the anti-tankers argument, like, well, the Celtics didn't tank to get Tatum and Brown. Yes, but where did they draft them? At the very near top of the draft in consecutive years. And they are reigning NBA champions and all NBA caliber players and had the Celtics as a top 2 seed again as defending champions. It's not about the tanking to try to get that lottery odds because that's the only way to go about it. It's like, we're trying to answer the question, where do the Bulls find their franchise talent or talents? And here are our options. here are the possible avenues we can go down. And unless you think that one of the guys that's on the roster now and is going to be back on the roster again next season is that guy, then where do you go? Is it trying to acquire him in a trade? Is it trying to sign him and pay him big in free agency? Or is it finding them in the draft?
I mean, I think it's stay afloat until you can figure out an answer. I think that's really the approach, right? Like, they are not going to be tanking. They didn't do it last year when all signs pointed towards them needing to do that and really like that being the best solution. Casey Johnson was talking about it today on their thing. Like, does not seem like that's going to be the case next year. They're just not doing it. And I think, okay, so then what? Like, I think it's about figuring out other solutions given the limitations. And the same thing when you're talking about the luxury tax, like they're not going into it. So how do you build a team without that? And it's hard to do that when like you're like, it's like the trash compactor in Star Wars. Like the walls are coming in and like, there's only this much space that you can work with. Like you can't go into luxury tax. You can't draft at the top. Like you have to go through the middle. I don't know how to do that. I don't know like what the right answers are, but I think that's part of getting younger and more future oriented is that you have the ability to like jump at the next available guy when that comes up. And I think that's really the only option they have, right? Like unless they get lucky in the draft, which they have a very small % chance to do, or one of the guys that they have turns into a star, which is a small % chance, but that's one of the few things that they can do. You just have to keep moving forward. I just don't think like trading Coby now makes any sense because you're not going to like a team that's trading for him is not going to be able to extend him on the number that he's allowed to sign for. So like, you're not going to get a lot for that because he's going to just be a free agent after next year. Teams aren't going to give up for that. Giddey, restricted free agent. I don't, maybe there's like a sign and trade out there, but like, he's not the kind of player that's getting you multiple draft picks to start over with. So I think at this point where they are, they just have to keep going down the path. And that's why last summer felt so pivotal because it was the time when they could make a choice. This is the choice they made. And so now it's a matter of how do you get out of the middle by going through the middle. And I think that's a really tall task.
It is. In the comments, Orlando saying Bulls won't tank. They need to build like the Knicks did, sign secondary good players that their teams can't or won't pay to manageable contracts, hoping one of them is a star with a bigger role. And obviously maybe that specific example of Jalen Brunson, who we were just talking about in our opening segment, and what he means to this Knicks team and the Dallas Mavericks. Many scorned him for saying, "Hey, there's the door, Jalen Brunson. We don't want to pay you that." And look at how he has thrived and turned into that caliber of a player on a different team. And I think that's where the Bulls are. And I agree with Orlando. The Bulls won't tank. Whether or not you think it's in their best interest to maximize their lottery odds, this past season that just ended, the season upcoming, that the 26 draft class is even more stacked and talented than the 25 draft class. They have told us as an organization in a variety of ways, but certainly from AK's mouth, from the horse's mouth, we're not doing it that way. We want to maintain some amount of competitiveness and work on internal development of our young players, and then maintain control of all of our future draft capital and financial flexibility when there are going to be some big names on the market next summer. And you can see the logic in all of that. But I think they are short-sighted in the amount they are relying on internal development. If the part of their equation right now, financial flexibility in 2026, doesn't come to fruition because they can't land any of the big name free agents they chase, because in summer of 2026, several more teams will have cap space to pitch to those players.
Yeah, I think the 2026 free agent thing, like we've just kind of been talking about that in theory, the guys that are actually going to be available, I don't think it's like, I mean, obviously Luka and De'Aaron Fox are kind of like the prime.
I saw somebody in the comments earlier asking, like, if Luka doesn't want to commit to being a Laker for life, can the Bulls sign him? It's like, what's the pitch?
Sure, they could, but yeah,
what's the pitch?
Come be the number 2 to Josh Giddey. But then you have like Jaren Jackson Jr. Obviously, that would be amazing if the Bulls are able to get him. But then it's like a lot of like, I mean, Andrew Wiggins, DeAndre Ayton, Kyrie, who's going to be 34, Van Vliet, who's going to be 32, Levine, Trae Young. I mean, it's like none of these guys are really the guys that you want to go all in on in that way.
Right.
And so ultimately, I think what's going to happen is the Bulls are going to have to start taking back some bad salaries for picks, or trading their guys for like Vooch and Lonzo in particular for picks to kind of give themselves a little bit more runway, and then basically use that cap space to
just
to
absorb
be able
contracts.
to absorb bad contracts for more picks. And then you can keep on building that way. But I just don't see, I mean, maybe it's a sign and trade.
That's also not something that AK has shown to be a part of his MO when it comes to his roster building strategy.
Which is why the Lonzo trade that never was so bizarre. Because that felt like the perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
I do think that if they could do that one again, they might. But I think those are the kind of moves that they'll have to do, because you can still be competitive with your young core. You can still, you have some veterans around, Herter, Collins, still have your young players, still move forward, but also be collecting some of these picks, or even taking on, undesirable contracts of veterans who haven't been able to play, like what the Wizards did for Smart and Chris Middleton, for example. Like, they could play next year, look really good, and then flip them for positive value at the trade deadline as expiring contracts. That's what the Bulls should be doing with their reserve space. And obviously that space will shrink as soon as they start to do that. But, you're going to have plenty of space. I think $84 million comes off the books after next year. That's plenty of room to take in bad salaries for picks and still be able to sign Giddey and Coby and Io and the guys that you want to retain long-term. But it also gives you some flexibility. And then ultimately, if you take on 2 or 3 years of bad money, those guys will come off the books when you need to start re-signing guys again. And then maybe you've accumulated some good draft picks, some good rookies, and you can go forward from there. So I think it's like kind of a slow burn in terms of not the full tear down and rebuild with multiple picks. It's not the Jazz or the Thunder approach, but it is possible. And I think the players they have are good players. They can be a piece or a part of really good teams. You just need to keep moving forward. And I think the Lonzo thing, for example, is a missed opportunity. The Vooch not getting even just second round picks for that. It's like, Vooch was great, but you could have helped yourself build moving forward. And they prioritized not just like the present, because you can still prioritize the present even if you make those trades, but they prioritized like doubling down on those kind of players, which I think needs to be a real change in their approach and outlook moving forward if they are going to go this path.
Right. People in the comments chiming in, Chuck, one of many with the classic tanking doesn't work line. Who has won a championship by tanking? I mean, there are plenty of examples.
We're also just saying that's not happening.
It's not happening. The Bulls aren't doing it. But again, and it goes back to what I was saying. Our buddy Mo was it's like this word tanking is way too. It's gotten way too triggering among Bulls fans, in my opinion. It's not about we gotta be going to the bottom, be as bad as possible. It's like tanking doesn't work is a sentence that drives me crazy. Okay, you know what else doesn't work? Contending for championships without a top 10 to 15 player in the league. Doesn't work. Follow-up question. Do the Bulls have theirs? Yes? If you say yes, I think you're somewhere between optimistic and delusional. If you say no, then how do you get one? That's the question. That's the conversation. How do you get your franchise player? Lots of franchise players emerge in the tops of draft classes. Rob in the comments saying, when analysts talk about how good and deep the drafts are, automatically fans look at the first couple players and think that's the only way to get guys, when it means there's many guys, not just top 1 through 4. Interesting point to be made, generally speaking. In this year's draft class, I will say, and you and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday and again today, the more I watch tape on this 25 draft class and the guys projected to go top half of the first round, lottery guys, even just like overall first round projected picks, the less deep I think it is, which is what was simultaneously driving me crazy as I was watching those Bulls wins in March and April. I think you're looking at one franchise player, bona fide franchise player, blue chip prospect in Cooper Flagg, a few star potential players behind him when you're talking about your Harpers, your Edgecombs, your Baileys, and then beyond that, it's looking more and more like a crapshoot to me, and that's not what the Bulls need. Not what the Bulls need. The Bulls don't need to add another good young player with experience with the 12th pick in the draft, unless they get lucky and 11 other teams miss. and the Bulls have a franchise player fall into their lap at number 12, which I'm not saying is impossible, but very damn unlikely, then we will still be here talking about this a year from now. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's why
I didn't think I was going to get that cranky today.
That's why
when you figure out what is happening versus what is holding them back from legitimately contending, it's maddening.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're just, the options that they're giving themselves are limiting. And so you have to figure out other ways to do it. And I think getting caught up in they should tank is a bad perspective to have, because yeah, maybe they should do that. And like, you can criticize a team for not doing what they should do. But at the end of the day, like, let's come up with some other solutions. And I think it's a hard thing to do when you're like, the obvious path is, okay, yeah, you get the star players at the top of the draft, but if they're not going to do that, what are your other options? And I think those are kind of what I've been thinking about and what I imagine the Bulls front office is thinking about as they try to build here moving forward.
Yes, indeedy. That's going to do it for those of you watching on our various streaming services, Roku and Samsung TV Plus and Comcast Xfinity. Shout out to y'all. If you want the bonus coverage, just head to allchgo.com. So as we wrap up here, it's always a vibrant conversation and lively in the comments, because clearly people among Bulls Nation have differing opinions about where the Bulls should go from here, how they should build from here. I think there are a couple of things that are clear, and they are what we have been told by the organization, the people who run it, based on their actions and words. They are going to try to be competitive from the bottom of the middle, where they took a minor step back, but really not a step back, because they were a 39-win team last season. They're a 39-win team this season. They were a 40-win team 2 years before that. The roster pieces are different, but the amount of success versus failure is the same. So we anticipate a very similar roster to be back next season. They will add a piece in the draft, still TBD where they will be drafting from. Lotteries in a few weeks. But how do they make improvements beyond hoping for internal development, which is something that AK was pinpointing in his press conference last week? How much better can Josh Giddey become as an NBA player? How much better can Coby White become? How much better can Matas Buzelis become? And, role players around those guys. Katie?
It's interesting hearing you talk about like how much better can they become and how the Bulls are almost like leveraging their future on it, and then like they don't have any player development staff.
Well, they did.
And
they certainly have one fewer today than they had a week ago.
That, clearly makes a big impact on that. And maybe they, beef it up in the future. Who knows? But, one thing for sure is that their development staff. Oh, look at that. Steven just said the same thing I was saying. But yeah, how do they develop that without a development staff?
Good question, Aguado.
How do they do anything if they can't get enough legs to do a tankathon spin? That's
Seriously.
my real question.
Also, Katie, I wonder if it's from a Jim Carrey movie from the 1990s. Watch Ace Ventura already, for the love of God. We made it to the off season. What are you doing? What are you doing tonight? Go home and watch Ace Ventura.
I'm thinking about dinosaurs instead.
You're thinking about dinosaurs. Yeah, how'd that poll turn out?
I think I'm going to watch Jurassic Park tonight.
Have you already seen Jurassic Park?
Several times.
It's a great movie. Don't do a
Great
rewatch
movie.
of Jurassic Park when you haven't seen Ace Ventura yet.
So the winner of the poll is T-Rex, which I think is crap, because I think T-Rex just has like a good PR department. They're not that cool.
Sure.
Like, they're cool, but they're not that
Big
cool.
bird.
I mean, T-Rex is the Yankees of the dinosaur world.
Yeah, the Cowboys,
Yeah. America's dinosaur. So what was the order of how the voting finished? T-Rex runaway winner.
T-Rex runaway with 46%.
Woo.
Velociraptor coming in second
Okay.
at 33.
Yeah.
Stegosaurus got the lone herbivore on there, coming in at 13, and then pterodactyl at 8%.
Wow.
Which I think is crazy. Pterodactyls are cool, man.
They are very cool. That's people who don't believe dinosaurs exist. Like, dude, look at larger birds that exist today. They're clearly dinosaurs.
Yeah. Chickens are dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. Raptors, obviously another solid, but like, dude, you can't go wrong with a good old like Brontosaurus, just like a gigantic freaking, just behemoth of a dinosaur. But yes, I mean, you're never going to see an herbivore outvote a carnivore, in my opinion. Depends on the crowd. Depends on who's voting.
Matt with a
That's
meat
because
bias?
I was gonna say that's because you don't like vegans, but
I don't. It's not that I dislike vegans. I just feel sorry for them because they're living life wrong. If it's their choice, if it's like I can't eat meat or I'll die, like okay, I'm bummed for you. That sucks. If you are voluntarily just being like, I'm a vegan because I want to be, like, rethink your life choices. Meat's delicious. Poor Mario. We were talking about people who are gluten free because they have to be, because they feel like crud when they eat gluten. I would be so bummed. You're not gluten free, are you, Goat? No?
Nope.
Katie? Yeah. Gluten's delicious. When I go to the restaurant, I order extra gluten. All right, we'll get out of here. What? You never order extra gluten, Katie? Oh yeah. It's a new trend. All the cool kids are doing it. That's right, Nicholas. Big Dave does like the herbivores.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Marky! Dinosaur talk. Yeah, that's right, buddy. No, we actually just spent like an hour talking about NBA playoffs and the Bulls roster construction philosophies and differing strategies. And then we just wrapped up with a tiny little dino talk. Thanks for joining us on Dino Hour.
All right.
We will be back tomorrow with a live episode. We're also going to be recording a mailbag episode tomorrow to drop on Thursday when all the craziness of the NFL draft is happening. So for you diehards, if you haven't done it yet, throw us your mailbag questions in that Discord. Diehards get first dibs, of course, on all of our mailbag episodes. So hit us up in that Discord. Anything on your mind, Bulls or NBA related. We will be back tomorrow. Big Dave will be back tomorrow. Looking forward to having him back. In the meantime, follow Will Gottlieb, read his stuff, allchgo.com. Become a diehard so you can read all of it. The very
Diehard
best
discount
of it.
sale going on right now.
Diehard sale going on right now. Take advantage, y'all. What, $36 for the year?
Yeah, we're basically paying you.
$3 a month, y'all, to get all that great content, all the great discounts, all the great bonus stuff, including NFL draft coverage. I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out to the queen of the controls, the one and only Katie W. Hit the like button. Maybe we'll get enough for a spin tomorrow, but not today.
Sad.
See you, Rebbe good. Sad. Sad.
We all silly like the mayor.